Jesse, please let me know at the end of the slide if there's anything that I need to pay attention to, but let's jump right in. So a quick recap, yesterday we talked about why you should be on Twitter and LinkedIn, how you should pick your niche, how to create your profile and craft your personal brand, how to generate content ideas, how to write compelling content. And today, we're going to talk about how the algorithm works, how the funnel works in terms of getting more followers, all the growth hacks that you need to know to get more followers, what the key differences between Twitter and LinkedIn are, both from a perspective of should I build my following on platform A or platform B, and then also, what differences in the kind of content that resonates or the kind of growth hacks that work on these platforms. And finally, we're going to talk about monetization and case studies, a couple of surprises at the end as well and throughout this deck. So I'm super excited to share with you and get this started. All right, cool. Key things to understand. I talked about this a bit yesterday as well. Your content is the product, the growth hacks are the distribution. So the higher the quality of your content, the easier it'll be to get followers, which is why I had that part at the start. That's why we covered that on day one, because in the long run, I fear content just isn't up to scratch. Like there's no growth hack in the world that can help you scale your audience if your content just isn't meeting a certain quality bar. So most creators build up their followings by chasing the latest growth hack, but they fail to translate that into opportunities because your content just ends up looking a bit like everyone else. So it's not just about, growing your follower numbers. It's also about, building those relationships in depth. So if you have high quality content, people associate quality with you, they're more likely to buy from you down the line. But if you're just basically rehashing everyone else's content, just changing a few words here and there and putting it out, people can, to some degree see through it and doesn't really, differentiate you from other content on the platform. So before we begin, a question that I often get is I'll get questions like, how did Elon Musk grow so fast? And, why do I have to write threads and do all these things? And the answer is like folks like, Elon or Justin Bieber or whichever celebrity out there, they were famous before they joined the platform. So, their following is mostly a function of them being famous. It's, you're Rihanna, you come to Twitter or LinkedIn, you're Rihanna. Like people follow you because you're Rihanna, you're already famous. You don't need to create any kind of content. In fact, trying to look at this content and learn at their content or their profiles and trying to learn from them is in fact counterproductive because they're growing regardless of what they say, if I'm being honest. Second one, meme accounts and shit posting, pretty prevalent on Twitter, increasingly so on LinkedIn as well. You can definitely grow your following this way, but reality is you're going to attract a lot of toxic followers, if I'm being honest, and folks who just aren't serious, who are just there for a laugh. It doesn't demonstrate your expertise, doesn't demonstrate any credibility. So in general, definitely can grow. Maybe occasionally want to try out memes and things, but if you're serious about monetizing and people buying from you, hiring you down the line, whatever else your goal might be, definitely do not recommend going down that path too often. Third one, political content, especially prevalent on Twitter, but a little bit on LinkedIn as well, where, someone who constantly has some beef about something 24/7. Again, these accounts grow, but it's hard to monetize that. Less hard than meme accounts and shit posting. Like, if you're really into your political content and, you have a podcast or something or a YouTube channel that you can, kind of transfer people to, or a newsletter that people want to pay for, doable. Again, quite difficult if I'm being honest. The final one, and this is what we're here for, is writing valuable content for others. So you dive into a topic or you already understand the topic super well. You write valuable content around it. You share it with other folks. You demonstrate credibility, and down the line, they buy from you. So, and also I would, highly recommend, if you're serious about bucket 4, avoid buckets 2 and 3 for the main reason that'll damage your career in the long run. So I know a couple of people who were definitely got into their political content and shit posting on Twitter. And, they were sort of like let go for posting things that their employer deemed inappropriate or their client deemed inappropriate. So we are here to talk about creating value for other folks. That's what I covered yesterday in the session. So let's jump right into it. How do you get more followers? So this is what a funnel looks like. A funnel is a marketing word for, how someone goes from finding your content to becoming a follower. So at the top of this funnel, Essentially someone sees your hook. So, you know, they're either on Twitter or they're on LinkedIn and they see your post. So they see the first line and it makes them go, okay, I got to read this. What is this, right? Then they move into the body. We talked about how to write a good body, but I'll quickly recap that on the next slide. They read the body, they're like, okay, you know, this was pretty valuable content. And finally, you know, you give them a CTA. You say, if you want more content like this, you should follow me. Person's like, okay, I don't want to miss out on more content like this. I definitely want to learn. This person seems legit. And then they go to your profile where, you know, you seal the deal. You give them a no-brainer reason to come follow you. You know, so for my one, I said before, it's psychology and marketing simplified. So anyone who's into that niche, you know, will probably want to come follow me. Quick metrics there as well. Early on, you know, if you write a long post or a carousel or a thread and 10% of folks come, 10% of likes convert to follows. So if you get 100 likes on something and you get 10 new followers, that's a pretty awesome conversion rate. Down the line, that can go up to 20-30%. But, you know, 10% is sort of like a good benchmark that you want to have in the end. Don't obsess about it too much. At the end of the day, as long as you're getting more followers and you're directionally moving in the right kind of direction, I guess, that's all that matters, right? And finally, you know, see their profile, they come follow. And, you know, essentially this part of the funnel, you know, the hook, the body, and the CTA, essentially, you know, it's the long form content. It is the thread, it is the carousel, or it is the long post. So quick recap of, you know, how to write long form content. I know some folks who couldn't attend yesterday that are attending today. If you haven't seen yesterday's videos, which I've shared over email, quick recap. So single tweets and posts can get a lot of likes, but the secret to getting more followers is writing threads and carousels on Twitter and LinkedIn. It starts with the hook. So the hook is like the first line or the first couple of lines, you know, that's designed to catch the reader's attention. The body is there to, you know, kind of deliver on the promise of whatever the hook is. It keeps them reading till the end. And the call to action, or the CTA, is the last part where you say, hey, if you enjoyed reading this, come follow me. Extremely important part as well. You don't want to miss out on it. But 80% of your content's success comes down to the hook. So great hooks are short, punchy. They create a strong emotion. They create FOMO. They make the reader want to read further. I shared some examples of hooks yesterday. So if you haven't seen it, go back to yesterday's content and check it out. How do you write? Okay, so moving on, you know, to the body, like I said, the difference between a good thread and clickbait is whether your body is delivered on the promise of the hook. Best practices for writing a good body, you know, you want to have one idea per paragraph. You want to space it out, keep your sentences short. You use bullet points and numbers, which is basically just good format hygiene. You want to use images and charts if an idea is like difficult to communicate. Be specific. You want to use numbers and stats whenever possible, and you want to make it generally just want to make it as easy to read as possible. Like if I'm straining my eyes and if I'm reading like big chunks of text, it just makes it hard to read in general. And, you know, finally, the job of the CTA is to get the reader to take action and follow you. So, you know, want to keep it simple. I shared my one yesterday. Feel free to copy it. Essentially, it's just like, you know, hey, if you want to get more valuable content like this, just come follow me. That's it. So moving on, we talked about how to create your bio yesterday, but today we're going to get a little bit more specific on how you can create a compelling profile. So number one, you want to write a compelling bio, which is, you know, you want to talk about what it is that you're writing about. You want to show credibility, and you just want to make it a general no-brainer for them to come follow you. You want to have a clear photo that shows your face, or if you're using an avatar, then, you know, you definitely, you know, want to make a clear avatar so people know who they're talking to. Ideally, the photo has like you're looking directly at the camera. There's some eye contact. But in general, you know, if I'm visiting someone's profile, I should know what they look like. You want to add a banner photo that complements your profile pic. Don't leave that part empty. For some reason, it just doesn't look legit. You want to have a clear and compelling bio. Everyone who visits your kind of bio should instantly understand what you write about, why they should follow you, and, you know, why you're credible. You want to pin your best tweet to the top. And if you're on LinkedIn, you want to pin your best post to the top. So if you're starting from zero, that probably doesn't apply to you. But, you know, once you're a couple of months into this, once you have a couple of posts that have 100+ likes, pin them to the top. So, you know, someone kind of gets what your content is all about. Your username should also either be your name or your topic. So please do not have a username like Anon74897 or something. That just makes you look like a bot. And if you're sort of like on the professional end of things, definitely, you know, don't try to be too funny with the username or have like an inappropriate username. Essentially, just keep it simple. So here's an example. A good friend of mine, Blake Burge, started around the same time, about a year and a half ago. So, if you, number one is, when you see the profile, your eyes go to his face. So he has a clear photo that shows his face. General kind of thing is, should be clear, not blurry, not a lot of other things in the background that are distracting. Looking right at the camera, has, a pleasant smile on his face. And, it's generally like the face is occupying most of the profile picture. So you don't want it to be so small that, you're seeing a person all the way to their waist, because if you're on your phone, image is really small, hard to tell what the person's face is. So this, is the number one thing that someone looks at. Second thing, again, images are the first thing that a person's eyes go to, whether you're on a Twitter profile, a landing page, could be anything else. So you want a banner that complements your profile pic. Again, he obviously has created something a little bit fancy, but even if you have anything else, even a plain black background, just a color that kind of complements the black and white, or maybe the color of your t-shirt in your picture, doesn't really matter, but you definitely want to have something there just to kind of fill that space out. Otherwise, it's like gray and just feels a little bit odd. Blake has a clear username, so he just has his name right up here. I couldn't find my name, so like my username is Zain Kahn. So yeah, username or write about your topic. A compelling bio. So Blake's bio is helping you learn while I do the same, sharing insights on business productivity and building a better you. A fan of bourbon books, Excel and G Sheets. Has his website right there, entrepreneur, ton of followers. And then, he has his newsletter plugged in. I'll go into that a little bit tomorrow, maybe at the end of today's session as well, if you have time. And then, he has his best tweet, or the most, or the tweet that's most related to his content and the way that he's trying to monetize, pinned right here at the top. So Blake, I think, might have bigger threads than this, but this is the one, since he's monetizing through his Excel course. This is the one that he has at the top here. So I hope that sort of clarifies, how you want to create your profile. By the way, you can also experiment in the beginning with your bio. So Blake in the beginning, his one was bourbon, books, and Bitcoin. But, he didn't really end up writing a lot about Bitcoin. He ended up writing a lot about Excel and Google Sheets and productivity tips. And, that's how his kind of bio has evolved over time. My bio's evolved a little bit over time as well. So, it's not like you have to kind of set it and forget it. But you want to look at other big creators in your niche as well. So, West KO, for example, Sahil Bloom, a bunch of other folks on Twitter and LinkedIn. You can definitely go check out their profiles, and you'll get a sense of how you can create a compelling profile. The best profiles to look at, surprisingly, are not the ones that have hundreds of thousands of followers, because, a lot of these profiles are at a point where they can literally write anything and still get followers, just because they have that strong social proof of, followers right here. So the best ones to look at might be folks who are in the 0 to 100,000 follower range, or sorry, the 10,000 to 100,000 follower range, because they've given it some thought. They're still actively trying to build up their audience instead of trying to monetize it. So, those are some folks you might want to look at. Let's jump right into the algorithm. So the algorithm shows your content to a few hundred of your followers. So if you tweet something or you post a carousel or anything that might be, so it shows it to a few hundred followers. And, depending on however many people or whatever percentage of folks engage with it, it slowly blows up your content. So think of it as a sort of like, almost like a tree, like you start at the bottom, like there's the trunk, which is like, it's slowly testing and building up the trunk. And, once, your content is super viral, it just blows you up into all these different branches of the platform where everyone starts to see your content. Good kind of metrics to look at in terms of engagement rate on Twitter. Generally speaking, anything below 2%, not good. 2 to 5% will get you a couple hundred likes. Anything that gets an engagement rate of above 5% generally goes viral, gets anywhere from like 1,000 to 10,000 likes. And anything about 5%, anything about 7-8% plus, you're basically in dreamland. We're probably going to end up getting tens of thousands of likes. Like my most engaged piece has 15 or 16% engagement rate, and that has like 30 or 40 million impressions, got me 50,000 followers. So just a general benchmark. You can look at the analytics both on LinkedIn and on Twitter. If you look at your post, there's like an analytics button. You can click on the analytics button and it kind of breaks down everything. Commentaries, blah, blah, blah. You can kind of go into a lot of the analytics, but in general, the engagement rate basically is the number of like basically engagements. It could be a kind of reshare or retweet or a comment or a like or whatever. Just combine all of them and, kind of look at what the rate looks like compared to the impressions. So basically number of engagements over the number of impressions, and you'll know how your tweet is performing. in the very early days, don't pay attention too much to this. I'd say a good point to start paying attention to this is once you have 500, maybe 1,000 followers plus. Like that's when it really matters, because early on, we don't have any followers, you can't really get engagement. It's a lot more about, sort of like getting followers through commenting on other folks' content and so on. I'll go into that in a little bit. Second thing, the algo also shows your content to the followers of accounts that comment or retweet your content. So for example, if you write something and I come in and comment on it, I have a lot of followers, so a couple of thousand of my followers will come see it. And, that basically gets you, exposure for content early on when you don't have the followers. Retweets on Twitter and reposts on LinkedIn get more views, and comments get fewer, but comments are still super effective, right? So don't be disappointed if folks don't retweet or repost your content, because that's like a pretty big deal, because you're effectively sharing that on your profile, and that sometimes hurts your follower engagement. But in general, like if an account that has a few thousand followers, doesn't need to be 100,000 followers, could even be a couple thousand followers, comes in, comments on your thing, that's generally enough to get you that early visibility with the algorithm. The bigger the account, the more visibility your content will get. And finally, you can also include keywords to surface your content and topics on Twitter and LinkedIn. So for example, if you are writing something about, let's just say about venture capital, and you kind of write the words of VC or venture capital, you don't need to use a hashtag. If you just have that in your tweet or LinkedIn post, and it's going viral, the alg will pick that up and kind of like show it to other folks. Now, the whole keyword thing, I've seen a lot of folks try to game this, but I would say it's not like the main growth hack, but it's something that's good to know. If you can put a keyword in there, go for it. Okay, so a lot of folks here are starting from scratch. Let's talk about how to get your first 1,000 followers on both LinkedIn and Twitter, right? So the first 1,000 followers are the hardest. A lot of people give up before hitting the first 1,000. And frankly speaking, I'm get really sad when I see it, because I know that their quality is good. They just needed to be a little more persistent, be at it for a few more weeks, and they would have crossed that barrier. So, your first few followers, like your first 10, 20, 50, maybe 100 followers, you want to ask them to follow you. That's how you get the first ones. On LinkedIn, that's a lot easier, just because you already have your connections, and anyone you're connected to on LinkedIn is already your follower, right? So on LinkedIn, that's a little bit, that's a kind of nice cushion. So most folks will have 500 plus connections on their LinkedIn. So you almost have 500 followers from the start, which is pretty nice. On Twitter, you want to ask your friends and fam to kind of start with that. It's your first 10 to 100 followers, and you want them to kind of, engage in and comment on your stuff and really hustle in the beginning. But the most effective tactic early on is to find bigger accounts and get them to comment on your posts, right? You want to pick 10 accounts that are between 10 to 100,000 followers. You want to turn on notifications for these accounts, so you get a notification whenever they post. You want to go in and you want to go say something insightful or meaningful below their content, right? So for example, I was following a few accounts like Sahil and Julian and so on. These are early Twitter days. And whenever they posted, I got a notification. They were at less than 100,000 followers, and I started following them. And whenever they kind of posted something, I'll go in and I'll post a reply. And if you go in early enough, like in the first 10, 15 minutes, and you post something and you say something insightful, it's likely to get likes, and then your comments start showing at the top of all the other comments. And it just gets more comments and stays more on top, and it just becomes a virtuous cycle. But if you say something insightful, someone comes to your, they're oh damn, someone said something, this person says something really smart, let me go check out their profile. They go to their profile, hopefully you've written a compelling profile, and they convert and come in. So, early on when I was commenting, generally most comments got anywhere from 0 to 5, 10 followers, but I definitely had some comments where I did 50 plus followers early on. And it might even have a couple where I had 100, 200 followers coming from a comment. So don't underrate this. You want to do this 5 to 10 times a day in the beginning. So just set a notification whenever it happens, go in and comment. It can be a little bit distracting during your day. So, you can just go in and comment at a specific time during the day. Most folks kind of tend to post their content between 8 and 10 a.m. EST. So you can just, set a time during then and then can, go comment on it. But in terms of commenting, don't comment for the sake of commenting. If you just go and say, oh, this was a great post or really insightful or great job, the reader doesn't care. They're like, they just kind of scroll past it. You want to say something that catches their attention, that makes them go, okay, this comment added something really meaningful to the conversation, or really brought something, to the table that, really blew my mind, essentially. This will help you find people early on. Yeah, essentially they'll see your profile and find you compelling, and they'll come follow you. So this is, first, this is basically how I got my first 500 followers, but I could have easily used to get it to my first 1,000 followers as well. Now this is
Hey Zain, sorry to
go.
interrupt. Just I posted a couple of questions in the chat. Do you want to save them to later, or?
Oh, sure. Let me look at that super quick. Okay, so Joe says, if keywords are important, why aren't hashtags important? So I'll say this: me and every creator that I know who has 100,000 plus followers, we have never used a hashtag, like, ever. Not on Twitter, not on LinkedIn. And frankly speaking, like, for some reason, hashtags just look a little bit spammy, in my opinion. So I personally also have just not seen anyone use this as a strategy to grow their followers. I'm sure there are some exceptions there. If anything, you are definitely not going to lose any followers because you haven't used a hashtag. Second one, is it still worth commenting on others' posts, even if it is not immediately, say a week after they post? Not really, because by that point, people have already come in and commented, and they're ranking towards the top of the post. So for someone to find your comment, they really need to scroll towards the bottom and see it. So, someone has to go through a lot of effort to do that. So I think both on Twitter and LinkedIn, you can set notifications for folks when they post. And, you can just have a general window throughout the day when you can do this. So, generally 8 to 10 a.m. EST is when most folks post, especially those in Europe and Canada, but increasingly so, yeah. So Tassif says hashtags are important for searchability, I think. Reality is like Twitter and LinkedIn aren't really search platforms. So if you're on a search platform, like let's just say TikTok or Instagram, where people actively are searching for things, sure. But on Twitter and LinkedIn, these are mostly like, kind of instant consumption platforms. People aren't really kind of going in and looking at hashtags. Yeah, just wanted to put that out there. But if you want to go ahead and use a hashtag, it definitely doesn't hurt. So I'm pretty neutral towards using hashtags. Cool. So this might be the most important slide, or the most important couple of slides in today's deck. You cannot grow without a network. The biggest growth hack on these platforms is kind of networking with accounts that are bigger than yours and getting them to support your content. This is just how the algorithm is designed. So, you have to play by the algorithm's rules. So the reality is the most effective way for you to surface your content to other people's timelines on both LinkedIn and Twitter is for bigger accounts to comment and reshare your work. If not reshare is pretty rare, but at least get a comment on your work. So, for example, every time I come in and comment on someone's thing on LinkedIn and Twitter, and it doesn't have to be a transactional thing. A lot of kind of the accounts that kind of I help out are just folks that find their content interesting, or they have an interesting story. And I definitely genuinely do want to support upcoming content creators. So this is just the reality of it, especially early on when you have a few hundred followers or a couple of thousand followers. Reality is like not enough people are seeing your work for it to get picked up by the algorithm. It's a vicious cycle where you're not getting any views because you're not having any followers, and you're not getting any engagement because no one's engaging with it, and you basically never get picked up by the algo, and it just goes round and round. So you want to get into the virtuous cycle where someone comes in and comments on your work, their followers see it, they come comment, their followers see it, and it turns into a virtuous cycle. And the higher and the more viral the quality of the content is, the more likely it is to get more comments and more research from folks, and it just kind of it turns into a snowball of virality. Otherwise, with a few followers, like I said, hard to get the work surfaced. So yeah, basically get a comment from a bigger account, easiest way for your things to go viral. I will warn before moving into the next slide is please avoid scammy things like buying retweets and buying likes and being in these retweet and like groups where people just kind of come in and comment and like regardless of the quality of your content. Because the reality is it creates a fake feedback loop for you, where you have basically gotten a few likes, few comments, and a little bit of engagement and maybe a few followers off of faking that engagement early on. But the reality is like, if you want their content to go genuinely viral, no amount of like forced comments or retweets from your network is going to help it go viral. Like the quality of the content definitely needs to be high for it to go viral. So for example, if we know each other, I might come in and comment early on to kind of get you some visibility because I think your content is dope. But the reality is like all of my followers aren't going to come in and like and comment on it if they don't think that the content is high quality or worth engaging with. So a lot of people struggle with this. It's like, how do I reach out to bigger accounts? I'm so intimidated. Will they even respond to me? Why would they even talk to someone who has a couple hundred followers? So I've been there. I've had this problem, only started building my audience a year and a half ago. So pretty kind of recent for me. And I had to kind of go through this and figure it out. So in an ideal world, accounts with millions or hundreds of thousands of followers will engage with your tweet. But the reality is that they're too inundated with requests to help you out. So a couple of folks have DM'd me recently saying that, they sent me a LinkedIn request and I didn't get around to accepting it. Reality is like my LinkedIn is stocked with thousands of connect requests. So it's just hard for me to filter who's, and I've just completely gotten to the point where I just ignore it at this point. Twitter DMs are still better. So some of you folks have reached out to me on Twitter DMs and I've responded. And thank you so much for doing that. So Twitter DMs are a little bit easier and a little bit better, but on LinkedIn it's just basically extremely hard to do that. So the way to build your network early on is not to target accounts with hundreds of thousands of or millions of followers. You want to start targeting accounts that are slightly ahead of you, 1 or 2 steps ahead of you. So you want to start, if you're starting from 0, you want to look for accounts that have 1 to 10,000 followers. And if you already have 1 or 2,000 followers, you want to look at accounts with 5 to 20,000 followers. Now, it can seem a little bit intimidating reaching out to accounts that are bigger than yours and you feel like they're going to ignore you. Reality is like they were where you are only a few months ago. So they relate to the pain of being in that position where you can't get any visibility for your content. So if you reach out to them, if you talk to them, they definitely will to some degree support you. The easiest way to do it is, first you can start building some rapport by commenting on their content and resharing it for a few days so you get some visibility. So by the time you send them a connect request, oops, sorry, there we go, never mind. So, by the time that they, you reach out and send them a connect request on LinkedIn or, send them a DM on Twitter, they know who you are. Start a conversation organically. I'll say like, focus on building the relationship. The engagement will sort of like come naturally. You can always share your work with them for feedback, or, just say, you'd love some support or something. But, over time, I've seen, number one, the thing that I benefited from most wasn't like, the folks that I reached out to and said, hey, like, will you comment or like or anything? Never done that, but just sort of like putting that out there. But the ones that I benefited most from, so Blake Birch, who I just showed an example, when I started out with 0, I think he had 2,500 followers. So I was pretty intimidated in reaching out to him, but I reached out to him. We started a conversation. I never really asked him to engage with any of my stuff, but I definitely did like share some of my stuff with him and being like, hey, what do you think of this hook? Or, what do you think of my thread? Like, can you give me some feedback if you have 5 minutes and so on? And a lot of people are, kind of happy to do it. Not everyone, but a lot of people are happy to do it. So when I look at, the kind of tranche of accounts in the 1 to 10K kind of bracket that I reached out to early on, I got about a 50% response rate. So, if you're reaching out to 10 accounts, maybe 20 accounts, expect 5 to 10 to reach out. And frankly speaking, if you just have 2 to 3 accounts with a couple thousand followers that are happy to kind of comment and engage and support your content, that's more than enough. You definitely do not need an account with 100,000 followers to kind of come do it. You definitely do not need like a whole kind of retweet group with like tens or dozens of people. If you are friends with 2 to 3 accounts that have a combined following of like 10,000 followers and they're happy to kind of come comment, that is definitely more than enough to get you that early engagement, get you that visibility, and get you picked up by that algorithm. And you might be, sorry, go ahead.
You do have a question in the chat, just to let you know.
Okay, cool. I will look at that at the end of the slide. Awesome. So there might be temptation early on to think that your content isn't going viral because you did not get enough accounts to kind of come in and support your content. Let me tell you, like, if you got 2 or 3 accounts to come in and comment, that is more than enough. If at that point your content isn't getting picked up and is not getting likes or reshares or anything else, it is down to the quality of the content. So please keep that in mind. That being said as well, early on, please remember it does take a few days for the algo to keep to pick you up when you have like no followers. So don't get too discouraged if in the first couple of weeks your content isn't getting picked up. But if a month in, when you're getting folks who kind of come in and comment on your stuff and it's still not blowing up, reality is it's probably down to the quality of the content, especially down to the quality of the hook. So keep that in mind. Yeah, and if you're kind of thinking of, topics you can talk about, in DMs, like what do I even talk to them about, ask them for advice, compliment them on their work, tell them, discuss something that they wrote, tell them you like their content, talk about growth strategy, tens of millions of things you can talk about, but, just try to build the friendship organically, and the engagement and the rest of it will come. So moving on to the questions in the chat. If you reshare a post of a big account, do they see the impact you had on increasing the reach of their posts? I.e., do you get on their radar? Yes, so you can reshare, if you quote reshare the post on LinkedIn or Twitter, I will get a notification about it, but it depends on the size of the account. So if the account has like a few thousand followers, they'll probably notice it. But if an account has 50,000 plus followers, reality is like they're getting so many notifications that your thing can get lost in their notifications. So yes, effective. But you can definitely do without it if you don't have the time to kind of go in and quote tweet or quote repost people's work. All right, like I said, avoid scammer retweet groups. You can, fake engagement, but your content can't succeed at scale unless it is genuinely engaging. So you might get like 100 likes or something by forcing a lot of retweets and comments on your thing, maybe even paying for it in online groups. But the reality is like at the end of the day, it comes down to the quality of the content. You really want to be focusing on writing quality content, and then, kind of doing all this other stuff next. Again, you want to build organic relationships, you want to build friendships. So a lot of the folks that I've met on Twitter in the last year or so, like they're like good friends now. So there's like creators now that I talk to more than like, I guess my real life friends, if I can call them that. So like there's like creators that I WhatsApp with every day or every couple of days. We know about each other's families. We, have plans to visit each other later on this year. It's also how I met Jessie, by the way. So, I reached out to Jessie in her DMs, and, we went out for drinks, and that's where we got it talking about. And that's how like this course came to life. So, don't just focus on, reaching out to get to the engagement goal, but also reach out to build genuine relationships with these folks. Keep your DMs open. So, you might have DMs closed by default on LinkedIn or Twitter. Do not do that. You're essentially limiting your surface area of luck. So, if there's a big account that wants to reach out to and compliment your work or start a conversation, and, they're not able to do that because their DMs are closed. So, it's a small thing, but, it can definitely limit a lot of opportunities for you. So always keep your DMs open. You can Google how to do that, and you'll find the answer. Early on, it's worth DMing, your first couple hundred followers just to build an army of loyal following. So, if someone's giving you a follow, if you say, hi, really appreciate the follow, doesn't need to be too complicated. It just shows them that you appreciate it. A lot of these folks become loyal followers. Like even now, like, sometimes I still remember like my first couple of 100 followers, a lot of them, and, a lot of them will from time to time reach out, ask for advice. And, it's like, yeah, the first few hundred followers I definitely look at them as a sort of like a community that I had early on. You also want to reply to every comment early on. This builds engagement with the current followers and shows viewers and potential followers that you engage. So if at this point, I do a little bit less of it just because I'm constrained for time. But I'm up until the point where I was like 100,000 followers, I was replying to almost every single comment. If someone is taking time out of your day to engage with your content, I think you owe them at least like an acknowledgement. Like if they compliment you, you can just say thanks. Doesn't need to be too complicated. But if they ask a genuine question, please do engage with them. You might also get negative engagement or negative comments. My advice there is don't engage with that. Because the more you engage with it, the more likely they are to get aggressive, and the more toxic it is going to get. Just ignore them, and don't ever feel bad about blocking someone. It's your profile, it's your content. You get to write about whatever you want, and if someone doesn't like it, they have no right to kind of come in and harass you or say bad things to you. So if you ever get a bad comment or a bad DM, just block them. I have like thousands of people blocked at this point. A lot of them are just like spam bots who are promoting crypto things, but a lot of them are just folks who basically just were calling me names or being really aggressive or something like that. So just some good rules around engagement hygiene. All right, question that I got earlier on as well. How much should I post and how frequently should I post? So you should be posting at least once a day on Twitter. You should be also aiming for 1 to 2 threads per week, and the rest can be single tweets. So early on when I was writing on Twitter, I was tweeting So I was tweeting twice a day, and then I was doing one thread, occasionally doing two threads. So 1 to 2 threads is the sweet spot, and the rest of the day you want to be putting out 1 to 2 tweets. Don't have any empty days. I do not recommend having empty days on Twitter. The way to avoid burnout and feeling obligated is just to schedule this stuff, right? Sit down in one day, write all of it out, and just schedule it so you don't feel like you have to write every day or feel like this is an obligation. And then it makes it easy. All you have to do is kind of go in and reply to the comments 5 to 10 minutes a day, so it doesn't end up being a huge time suck for you. On LinkedIn, you should be posting 5 times a week and no more than 7. So LinkedIn, because has only recently started to grow as a platform, the team is definitely trying to encourage folks to post and keep the bar as low as possible. So they're not doing the Twitter thing of getting people to post as much as possible. They're saying, hey, if you're a creator, you want to come in, you can post 5 times a week, Monday to Friday, once a day, every weekday, and you're good. So please take advantage of that and do post Mondays to Fridays. On LinkedIn's, I've seen content not do so well on weekends. I think people just are not on LinkedIn on weekends. Weekdays tend to perform best. 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. EST is the time that has worked best for me. Now, that does not necessarily mean that other times cannot work. This is just something I've experimented with and found that to be the best time. My hypothesis is that 8 to 10 a.m. EST is the time when the US and Canada are waking up. Europe is already awake, and folks in India and other Eastern countries are sort of just about to leave work or leaving work. So everyone around the world is awake, and you can kind of get engagement from everywhere and do that. But if you're if you're posting at a time like, I don't know, say 9 p.m. West Coast time, yeah, folks are probably most folks around the world are probably asleep at that point, and there's not a lot of people to engage with your stuff. So just keep that in mind. On LinkedIn as well, I've noticed is posting more than once a day actually does hurt my engagement. I could be wrong, but something that anecdotally, experimentally I found is posting once a day, 5 days a week, 5 to 7 days a week tends to be the right frequency. And early on, you should be aiming to comment on at least 5 to 10 posts a day from bigger accounts. Again, I don't think this is a complete deal breaker. I know a lot of folks here have families, they have kids, they have other obligations. So don't feel like you can't build an audience if you don't do this, but I still recommend making time in the day to do this. If you have a few friends who are happy to come in and comment on your stuff, that's usually enough. But early on, build good habits and get those followers early on from the comments. All right, some mistakes you want to avoid early on as a creator. To some degree, I made all of them. It stunted my growth, but I'm hopefully you'll learn from this and not make the same mistakes that I did. So you don't want to imitate accounts outside of your niche. You can grow their account using the same strategies as the celebrity or meme accounts. So I talked about this in the early slides. So if you're looking at Rihanna or Justin Bieber's account, man, honestly, they can say anything and they'll get followers. You definitely do not want to be looking at how they're growing, right? You also don't want to be looking at folks who are extremely off topic. So for example, if you're writing about mental health, you do not want to be looking at what an economics professor is posting and how he or she are growing their account. So, their stuff might be fairly dry academic and cater to a different audience. And your one might be, your content might need to be a little less, let's just call it statistical and more heavy on the emotional content. So yeah, best people to look at are folks within your niche or adjacent to your niche, not folks who are really far out from your niche. Don't add platform links. So for example, if you add a link to a website or anything else that is not a Twitter or LinkedIn link, the algo will basically punish you. So for example, every time that so generally, when I post a tweet, I'll get tens of thousands of impressions, even on the worst tweets. But every time, for example, that I posted a link to this course, I only got a couple of thousand impressions on both Twitter and LinkedIn, right? Because Twitter and LinkedIn want to maximize the amount of time people are spending on their platform. They don't want people to jump off their platform, right? So they try to punish any off-platform links. So keep that in mind early on. There's other ways of kind of monetizing. I'll talk about that in a little bit, but yeah, try not, especially early on, don't try to link to other things. You want to focus on, don't want to focus on growth hacks over content quality. I've said this over and over again, but it, is worth saying is, once you kind of find a growth hack that works for you, the feedback loop is pretty strong, the dopamine hits are pretty strong. You might just want to go in and start using the growth hack over and over again and forget about the quality of your content. and you start developing bad habits, you stop consuming quality content, you stop, taking time out of your week to write quality content. You're just writing the same thing over and over again. And 2 months in, when the growth hack is washed up, it's fully saturated, you can't grow off it anymore. You have to go back to square one, and it gets really hard to build those habits back from square one. So yeah, don't focus too much on growth hacks. Always focus on the quality of your content. This goes without saying, but don't plagiarize. Don't sort of like steal credit from other people's work. Obviously, you can get called out for it, and that's not good. Hurts credibility. But in general, like the right thing to do is always try to credit wherever you can. Don't try to be controversial. Don't try to attack other people. It's a very easy way of getting followers early on. Someone says something, you say something that goes against it, or you call them fake or something. So for example, if you go to Elon Musk's comments, there's like accounts that have built their following purely off of attacking Elon in his comments. Like that's just what it is. Same with if you go to a bunch of other political accounts or public personalities, you just have all these kind of reply guys and reply girls who've just built their following off of attacking other people. Thing number one is hard to monetize, because your brand is essentially attacking people, not providing any real value that kind of enhances people's lives. And number two, if you have a big cohort of toxic followers, sooner or later they're going to turn on you. So they're going to wait for you to slip or say something that's even slightly incorrect. So yeah, generally avoid doing that. Same for people who comment on your thing. If you get a negative comment, avoid it. The temptation to respond to it is so strong, and I've made this mistake over and over and over again. Every time I responded to a negative comment, it's kind of like it's turned into a snowball. Other people have kind of jumped in, and it turns into a whole thing. And I haven't had a single occasion where I've left a comment and it's turned into something big. So yeah, always, like, if you get negative engagement, negative comments, negative quote tweets, or kind of reshares on LinkedIn, please avoid it. That's just my advice to you. Not worth the mental headache. Yeah, just arguing, fighting in general. Yeah, just basically avoid it. Also doesn't look for your brand, especially as your account grows. So if I have, like, now at the point that I am now that I have hundreds of thousands of followers, if there's an account with 50 followers and I reply, a lot of people, it just looks like I'm punching down. And a lot of people will come into the comments and be like, why are you picking on him or her, blah, blah. And it's like, man, like, they commented, what do you want me to say? I'm just responding. But, in general, it's just not a good look ever being in any kind of confrontation or something. And generally speaking, even if, someone has a kind of strong comment that's getting a few likes or something, avoid it. People will forget about it in a couple of days. It doesn't hurt your brand as much as you think it does. But at the end of the day, engaging with negative stuff always hurts your brand more than kind of leaving it alone. This question I also got yesterday. Basically, folks want to know what tools you want to use. So the ones that I use to schedule my tweets is Typefully. Pretty easy to use. I gave a quick preview of that yesterday. Pretty intuitive software. Go ahead and use it. But there's other tools like Hypefury, and a few other ones as well. So again, the tool doesn't matter as long as, like, you're using something to help you out. So go check them out. Tableau to write and schedule LinkedIn posts. For some reason, I haven't started like automating my LinkedIn posts yet. Just haven't found the time to kind of figure out that system. But I know most folks are using Tableau to schedule it. I think Hypefury also lets you schedule for both Twitter and LinkedIn simultaneously. So go check that out. One annoying thing about LinkedIn at this point is you can't automate carousels. So you just have to go and post carousels manually once or twice a week. So just keep that in mind. There's Notion and Evernote to write your notes. I use the phone notes, the notes app on my phone to kind of take down my ideas, and then I'll translate them to Notion. But again, it's not the specific software, just use something to take notes and write stuff. Tweemix, I also shared this yesterday, is a cool plugin that lets you see what's working for other accounts. Great source to see what content is working, but also what hooks work, right? So yeah, those are like the main ones that I'll recommend. Just try to keep it as simple as possible. You don't want to be spending hours every day in your tool stack trying to organize things. Just at the end of the day, your growth is not a function of your tool stack. Your growth is a function of the quality of your content. I'll quickly open up Twitter again and go over a couple of these things. So this right here, this bar on the right is Tweemix. So Tweemix essentially lets you see, oh, Jesse right there. Nice coincidence. So, for example, this shows me Jesse's profile and, Jesse's top performing content. But, let's here go to Andrea's account. So Andrea's account, I'm on his account and I can see, things that have worked best for Andrea. right here. So, if you go to the Chrome store, download Twemex, or just go to twemex.com, I think that's the website. You can download this and you see what has worked best for people. But, there's other ways of doing this as well. So for example, if you want to see my tweets around a certain topic, so let's just say I want to see, Zain's best marketing tweets. There you go. Right. So these are my best performing marketing tweets. Right. So you can go and look at and look for those things. Similarly for, thread hooks. So for example, if you want to find, wait, what's going on? Okay, there we go. So if you want to find a strong hook for your thread, let me refresh this so we can show my topics again, right? So like this one, this hook, I covered this yesterday, pretty strong, doesn't work anymore. This one, I came up with this, it's still getting used, it's still effective. People are, still getting thousands of likes off this hook. So, this one right here, you can definitely use a bunch of other hooks for my tweets that you can see, the Steve Jobs said, blah, blah, blah. Legendary brands like Apple and Coca-Cola are built on storytelling. Here are 7 simple steps for storytelling. It has like 26,000 likes. This is from like 2 months ago, I think. So still a very usable one. But generally, you can go to people's profiles, especially people in your niche, and you can see it. Similarly, I will open up LinkedIn and go to Taplio. So Taplio is this thing right here. So, if you can go to the Chrome store and download Taplio, but what happens with Taplio is if you go to someone's profile, you can see their top performing stuff. So let's go to someone like WestKO. So WestKO right here, I'm on her profile. And then I click this and I see her top performing content right here. So, again, if you are looking for inspiration, if you want to see what's working on your niche, both Twemex and Taplio are great tools for figuring out what works, especially if you're, kind of looking for ideas for hooks and so on. So just wanted to quickly cover that on the tool end. I'll also quickly bring up Typefully for folks who might not have had a chance to see it yesterday. So Typefully essentially right here, this is just an idea I haven't written out, but like here's like a bunch of like, either notes that I've taken or ideas that I have that I need to kind of fully flesh out. And, then I'll just go ahead and kind of schedule this. So it also like lets you auto retweet after 12 hours. Another small growth hack, like if you retweet your thing after a few hours, if it's doing well, it'll end up getting more likes. So just keep that in mind as well. Alrighty, moving on from tools, even though the algo in Twitter and LinkedIn is kind of broadly operates in the same way, there definitely are some differences between both platforms. Twitter is hyper viral. So your tweet goes viral, like insanely viral, like you can get tens of thousands of likes, but then after 24 hours, it just dies out. I've had things like that. I've had like 100,000 likes in like 24 hours. And after 24 hours, it's getting like maybe like 5 likes a day. So that, with Twitter is the right time to, to capitalize. LinkedIn is a slower burn. So LinkedIn, you're not going to go hyper viral, but, you might get a few hundred or a few thousand likes in the first day. And then slowly day after day after day, it kind of keeps going on. So for example, with my most viral carousels on LinkedIn, I had like, both of them had like 70,000 plus likes. On the first day, they had like 10 to 12,000 likes. And, by day 7, they had like 70,000 plus likes. So on LinkedIn, your content can definitely circulate and get you a lot more likes throughout the week. So, in some ways, I almost like that better. In terms of, kind of algo hacks and everything, Twitter was really rewarding threads a while back. Like, you could thread about anything and you'd get a lot of likes. It still does to some degree, but, it's so saturated at this point. So many people are writing threads. It's hard to stand out, but that still is like the main way to kind of, grow your audience on LinkedIn. The latest kind of thing that's come from the algo side are spaces. So, spaces, lots, if there's a space for someone that you're following, it comes up at the top of your timeline. It's doing well. And I see a lot of spaces that are getting a lot of people in them. I just haven't yet seen someone really convert people attending a space into followers, but maybe there is someone doing that, and maybe we'll catch that in a little while and I'll share that with you guys, but that's pretty much it. If you want to start building an audience right now, I cannot recommend LinkedIn highly enough. Like LinkedIn is popping off, especially carousels, but same goes for long posts as well. LinkedIn, the algorithm is definitely giving a lot of extra exposure to carousel. So if you write a long post versus a carousel, the algorithm will make sure that it gets a lot more views. They're really trying to promote that feature right now. So, in terms of growth hacks, the carousels is definitely a way to get in. I recommend doing both carousels and long posts, but either one will do the job. Polls were doing super well a while back, but I think LinkedIn has sort of like cut back on it now because it was being used in ways that LinkedIn didn't want it to be used. So, again, I said this before, quality content is timeless. And then, changes in algo or like the timely thing that you want to jump on. So I think I was the first account on LinkedIn to figure out how carousels worked. And, just using that, I basically jumped from 200 to 200,000 followers within like 14 weeks. So still, they're still doing pretty well. I'm still seeing a lot of accounts that are building, tens of thousands of followers in a very short amount of time using carousels and other such things. But, carousels, you want to be posting 1 to 2 carousels a week, and other days in the week, you also want to be focusing on other forms of content like shorter posts or whatever else it is that you want to do. So, okay, I'm getting a question which I'll quickly answer. So Shaman says, with carousels, is it segmenting the content into smaller chunks and putting them into multiple blocks? Yes, so I'll share my template with you folks in a second. Second one from Pooja is, how many graphic carousels do you recommend for LinkedIn per week? Can you share examples of effective carousels? 100%. So here is my LinkedIn kind of carousel template. I'll share the deck either tonight or tomorrow, but I'm just going to drop this in the chat right now so you folks have this. So go ahead. This is the template that I use to create all of my carousels. So the process for creating a carousel is you basically go in and take a screenshot. You post a screenshot. This right here is like the screenshot. You post it into this 4x5 slide on LinkedIn, CT at the end. And then you basically just save this as a PDF, and then you upload this to LinkedIn as a PDF. So small tips here. Number one, you want to use a black background. I've tested this. The black background works better than a white background because the black adds contrast and helps you stand out. So definitely use the black background. Maybe another strong color you can use as well, but this is the one that I've seen work best. In terms of the screenshot, now this might seem like a very micro thing, but I think it makes a big difference. Number one, go to your Twitter, LinkedIn app, or whatever you're doing. If you are repurposing content from Twitter, turn it to dark mode and then screenshot it from your phone, not from your desktop, because your desktop really compresses the text. Your phone makes it a little bit bigger. So if you want to turn some of your Twitter content into this, first, if you want to post on Twitter, you can definitely do that. But, if you just want to use this template and write your own things, very simply, I'm just doing this in front of you right now. So I just created this text box on top of all of this. I added, let me add black as a background color. So here you go. I add black as a background color, right? And then I can just terminate. Oh, sorry. Text is in black. So yeah, so see 5 ways to increase your productivity, for example, right? So just black background and just pull this in and you can do this, and then yeah, there you go. And then it just covers up the text and you can, go this way. It doesn't, you don't need to have super viral content from other platforms to kind of grow your audience, but this definitely is the way to go right now. So I hope you folks find that helpful. And I've shared this with other creators, this template, they're using it, and they basically, rocketed to like tens of thousands of followers in the last couple of months. So oops, I accidentally closed that. So let me open that back up again.
Zain, does that work even if you have very few? Because when you're screenshotting that, you have a lot of it says how many tweets or follows and tweets you've had.
Yeah.
If you don't really have any, is it still worth including that, or very few? Is it worth including?
So if you have less than 100, I would say no, but the carousels still work. Like the algo isn't scanning for how many tweets or likes or anything it has. It definitely does help. I'm not going to lie. But at the same time, I've seen a lot of other creators who did not have likes and just started from scratch using carousels, and they've built huge audiences off of carousels. So, if you don't have content that has a lot of likes right now that you can include on that post, don't worry about it. It's not a deal breaker. Like, for example, my brother, he doesn't have an audience anywhere. He started out on LinkedIn 3 or 4 months ago. He's currently working on group services instead of doing his own personal profile, but he's created a few company pages. And he has, just over 100,000 followers at this point across his company pages, just basically doing carousels and those kinds of things. So, cool. So yeah, just give you a look at the carousel. Next thing up is, differences in audience on Twitter versus LinkedIn. The audience on LinkedIn is way less toxic than Twitter. You'll definitely get a lot more negative engagement on Twitter. But generally speaking, if you're not posting controversial things, like you shouldn't be getting negative engagement in the first place. I generally like almost never get negative engagement. Might happen like a couple of times a month, but not really. But at the same time, the quality of content on Twitter is also much higher than LinkedIn. But that's not a bad thing. That's an opportunity for you. So if the general quality of content on LinkedIn is lower, you can definitely go in and kind of build your niche. A lot of the stuff on LinkedIn right now, and has been for a while, is focused on emotion versus values. You're trying to resonate with folks, and you'll say things like, we need a 4-day work week, or, mental health and so on. And that content is great. It's just not insightful. So, if you're going in with tactical guides on and kind of, insightful information about your niche, there definitely is a big opportunity for you to build an audience. That's definitely what I did as well. The quality of the network is also like so much better than Twitter as well. Like folks on LinkedIn are definitely there to work. They're there to buy. They're there to essentially, the intent is much higher. As a marketer, I mentioned this yesterday. If you want to pay for 8,000 impressions and this is from a paid marketing thing on Twitter, it's like a few cents, I think, here and there. For Facebook, it's like a few dollars, and then for LinkedIn, it can be like $10-$20. So we're talking orders of magnitude higher purchasing intent on LinkedIn. Those don't quote me on those numbers. It depends on kind of the niche and the product that you're selling. But in general, paid ads on LinkedIn are orders of magnitude more expensive than Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and that is because people just spend a lot more money on LinkedIn. So yeah, keep that in mind, the quality of network, whether you want to find a job, whether you want to sell a product, whether you want to find a customer. Yeah, LinkedIn is much superior. That does not mean that, you can't do it on Twitter. You can definitely still do it on Twitter if that's the platform that you prefer. Quality opportunities is also better on LinkedIn. Again, I want to caveat this because if you're in startups and if you're trying to fundraise, or if you're in crypto or, machine learning and AI, there are some niches which are probably work better on Twitter. But, LinkedIn in general tends to be, I've seen in terms of like, for my businesses, the quality of the leads, the conversion rates, the kind of amount of money that each customer pays on average, definitely orders of magnitude better on LinkedIn versus Twitter. All of that being said, Twitter is just more fun than LinkedIn. So, I totally understand if you think, Twitter is like the place to be. LinkedIn, a lot of like the content there is quite fake. We've all seen that image of that crying CEO who like fired half his team and then came to LinkedIn to cry just to get more engagement. So a lot of stuff on LinkedIn can definitely be a little bit cringe. So if it's not for you, I definitely understand. Cool. So sum it up, if you're deciding which platform to start on, if you have not already started, my strong recommendation is LinkedIn. Think of starting on LinkedIn and starting on Twitter 5 years ago, armed with all this knowledge, right? Imagine you knew about Threads 5 years ago. Yeah, you'd be like 1 million+ followers right now. So yeah, if you can do this on LinkedIn and you start now and you take all this information that I've given you, things that mostly creators on Twitter have worked out and are slowly kind of transferring over to LinkedIn now, you definitely have an information arbitrage that you can use to your advantage and build an audience on LinkedIn. There is a bonus guide for all of you, which is, I have Notion guides and templates built out for you. I'll email this to you tomorrow, just a couple of things that I need to polish up there, but let me just quickly show this to you. So right here, essentially, there's my guide on how to write well. Pretty quick, but I used to read this every time before I sat down to write a carousel or a post. Early on, I recommend reading this every day for the first 30 days just to kind of get it in. There is one on how to write a compelling hook, pretty short, but if you're running out of ideas, that's where you go. I have one on how to write a thread or carousel or a long post, whatever you want to call it. So, again, a 12-point thing that you can check. All of this is condensed into a writing checklist. So, it's a little bit of a long checklist, but I really wanted to go in as much detail as possible early on, so you're not missing anything. So, if you use this checklist for the first 30 days, you'll basically memorize everything by the end of it. So, it makes it a lot easier. I also have templates, which will help you basically, templates for, tweets or one-off posts and whatever, which, if you're running out of ideas, there's like 50 different templates here. So if you're not having an idea, you can just use this template and go for it. So for example, here, there's an example of the 80-20 rule templates, 80% of your day should be doing things you enjoy at minimum. Here's another 80-21, 80% listening, 20% talking, avoid unnecessary chatter, that may leave you with regret. Think deeply, then respond. Questions get a lot of engagements. Here Dakota is pretty good with this stuff. In 5 words, what's the best advice you can give someone? What's the purchase under $100 that's made the biggest impact on your productivity, or so on. So there's a lot of stuff right here. Like honestly, like if you use this, like you'll just basically never run out of ideas. Like just using this can give you like enough content for like the entire year, just right here. So taken like months and years to develop this right here, but yeah, we'll be sharing this with you tomorrow. Just need to polish a couple of things up in there. So keep an eye out for that. We'll make your life a lot easier and basically automate the whole process. Whew, talking a lot, but here's the big one. Let's talk about monetization and how to get into it. I'll just pause for 2 minutes. Does anyone have any kind of questions, comments that you want to ask me before we get into monetization? All right, cool.
Yeah,
sorry, go for it.
You mentioned not LinkedIn doesn't like it when you post things from outside. So if I wanted to post a news article from the web with my opinion, you're saying that's really not going to, the algorithm won't favor that.
Take a screenshot, don't post a link.
Okay.
Or maybe, if here's a better one. Take a screenshot, highlight the portion of text in the article that you disagree with, take a screenshot and share that.
Mm-hmm.
What about links and comments? So links and comments get punished to a lesser degree, but I still have noticed that they're getting punished. So yeah, something to keep in mind. I always usually now I just say, go to the link in my bio. So, that's link in bio is like valuable to real estate. You can definitely do that. Or, sometimes I'll say, just send me a DM and I'll send you a link, that way, you can bypass some of that stuff with the link. So in a nutshell, here's what's happening high level with like building an audience and kind of, getting revenue out of it. The first step is you're building social capital. So, the followers that you're building, the depth of the relationship that you're building with your following, that is the social capital that you are accumulating. And then the second step is you have to convert that social capital into financial capital. Could be, raising money for your startup, could be finding clients, could be selling consulting services, bunch of different things that I'm going to go into now, but essentially that is what is going on. So, if you only have 500 followers and you're trying to sell something, the reality is like you just do not have enough social capital in the bank right now to start monetizing. To step one, you definitely want to focus on the audience building part before you move on to this. But that being said, let's jump right in. So first of all, first thing you can do with your audience is you can use it to get customers for your product or service. Yesterday, I talked about Amanda Goetz. She has a brand called House of Wise, which is basically cannabis products, mostly targeted towards women. So, you're not allowed to promote cannabis products on most traditional channels. So, Facebook, Instagram, TV, billboards, you're just not allowed to do that. So she built an audience on Twitter. She, was a marketer. She first started talking about marketing. Then she built up a loyal following of women. And then, she basically had an early list of customers that she could launch her product to. Here's like an example as well. I'll read it out, Twitter fam. I'd love to get more product testers out to House of Wise. It's a sex serum. If you want to try it anonymously, use code SEXYSUMMER to get 30% off. I love your feedback from men and women. Levels.io, this is from last week. Incredible thing. Levels.io basically just built like this AI thing, which helps you create images that you want. So, you can take different headshots of yourself and you feed it into the website and it generates a bunch of different folks. He launched this like I think a week ago. On his first day, he made 10,000 plus. He shared like a screenshot of his revenue. He was charging $30 in the first day, and I think he's up the price to 40 now. That's how much demand he's getting. So, he could have possibly in this like last week or 2 weeks have potentially made hundreds of thousands of dollars just off like doing this. So, another good example of, if you can demonstrate the value of your product to your customer on the platform, chances are like, you can get people to start using it right there. Second thing you can do is, you can write content that drives traffic to your company's website. So Maven right here, they do online courses, a couple of examples for them. So this one is 5 courses to understand crypto, blah, blah, blah. And then, at the bottom, they give you a link to their website. Similarly here, 7 courses to understand crypto, launch NFTs, and break into product management. This one has 3,000 likes, probably got, a few thousand followers people coming to their website and then buying down the line as well. Third one, you have a business and you want to capture leads. Could be your own B2C thing. Maybe you have a consulting thing. Maybe you have a B2B SaaS thing going on. Maybe you work for a large corporation and you want to capture leads. So here's an example of someone who has created a lead magnet through his content and done pretty well out of it. So Jose Rosado, says, I cracked the Instagram code. I am 1,000 followers away from 100,000 followers. I recorded a 56-minute free video where I show you any new strategy that got me 59,000 followers in just 30 days. Retweet this and comment send, and I'll DM it to you. So basically what he's telling people is help me make this thing viral by commenting and retweeting it and getting it picked up by the algo. And I will send you a DM with this free guide. If you look down here, this thing has 2,000 retweets, which basically means that, he basically captured 2,000 pretty, decent quality leads, I assume, by doing this. So, then he sent, I actually commented to see how he built this funnel. So I can kind of share this as an example. So I commented on and retweeted this. He DM'd this to me. He says, thanks for sharing my post. You can download the course by clicking below. And by the way, this is like automated. He didn't like send 2,000 people to this thing by hand. You can kind of do this with Zappy and a few different automation tools. And then, when I click on this, I get it for free. But what do I need to do to get it for free? I need to give Jose my email. So Jose captures my email, and then I'm in Jose's funnel. So he's now subscribing to his newsletter. But then he's selling me product promotions, discounts, and a few other things as well. But in a similar way, on LinkedIn, it could be, let's just say you're selling some kind of like B2B SaaS software, just say like, we wrote a guide that helps you with your X problem. We recorded a free 59 video that you can come check out. All you got to do is like say, hi, and reshare this with other folks, and I'll DM it to you, no questions asked. Then you send them something like in their LinkedIn DMs, and then then they click on it, they download the video, watch the webinar or something, and you get to capture their email for free. So this is just one way that leads get captured, but a lot of other creative ways that this can happen. For webinar signups, Amanda and TV Dutch is pretty great with this. Again, I talked about LinkedIn having a lot more intent than Twitter, especially when it comes to kind of on the business side of things. So she works for a company called SparkToro, great company, check them out. We promoted next week's office hours webinar on Twitter and LinkedIn 1 hour ago, and the difference is absurd. So in 1 hour, she only had 3 signups on Twitter, which by the way is still great, and 34 on LinkedIn. I'm assuming she probably got hundreds, maybe even thousands of signups by the time all of this had happened. Example from me on the right, I'm hosting a free workshop for teens who want to build and monetize a social media audience in 2 hours. I'll cover 5 ways that creators can leverage their audience with real life examples and how to build their personal brand. Join me in 2 hours to learn quickly. I was working with the company, so they wanted to host a webinar. So I basically was like, let me leverage my audience. Let's get some people in. And these webinars had hundreds of signups. A lot of them coming from this tweet right here. So cool. Next one, newsletter, big one. Everyone knows about this. You see a lot of folks promoting their newsletter. Sahil probably has the best one. He has 100,000 followers now, but just wanted to share this one with you guys. So he, kind of started in December 27. And by December next year, he had like 50,000 people signed up to his newsletter. I'd say one person who follows you on subscribes to your newsletter is probably worth 5 to 10 on social, because on social, not everyone sees your content, but on email, everyone gets the content that you deliver to them. So, it's a super effective channel if you want to go down this path. And, one way to kind of get folks is, you want to have your link in bio, but the main growth hack for getting followers for your content is you write along for a piece of content or a thread. And at the bottom of the thread or at the end of the carousel, you plug your profile and you basically say, come and join me. So this one right here was pretty recently. Sahil says, at the end of his thread or carousel, he says, okay, I enjoyed that stream of consciousness. Follow me at Sahil Bloom for more writing on growth, life, and personal improvement. I'll probably write a longer piece on this in the future. Join 127,000 followers here. So folks are going to see that and then they're going to go follow. Early on, you obviously don't have the social proof for 127,000 followers, but it does not matter. I know folks who have gone to like, 20,000 followers in 2 to 3 months on newsletter. So, it definitely is doable. All right, we're going to go into, I think we have 10 or 11 more ways to monetize, but we have a small request that's only going to take 2 minutes. So now that you've taken this course, we would really, really, really appreciate your feedback and find ways that we can make it more valuable, I guess tomorrow, but then after the course as well. So I will, Jesse will share the link with you folks in the chat right now. If you can just take 2 minutes, fill out the survey, and then we'll move on to other ways that you can monetize. So go ahead, look at the chat, click on it. Shouldn't take you more than 2 minutes, and let us know when you're done and we can move forward. All right, if everyone is done, just let me know in the chat and we'll move on. I guess I'll give you folks another minute to finish up and then we can go ahead. Alrighty, I see some folks are done. Please let me know in the chat when you're done and we can start moving on then. All right, so Pooja is asking, what's your thoughts on where Twitter is on its growth curve currently? Pooja, do you mean like how many more users they can acquire as a platform and so on, or are you talking more from an audience building perspective in terms of how many more followers we can get as creators?
Yeah, Zain, I'm thinking more of kind of what the maturity of the platform is, like kind of, is it on its way kind of down like Facebook looks to me like, and what do you see with Elon Musk doing with it in terms of really thinking about time of putting in it, investment in it?
Yeah, so I think there's two ways platform can go, at least in the positive direction, is number one, they either find ways to get people to spend more time on the platform. So that's basically launching new features like Threads a little while ago. That was a huge win for Twitter. Spaces has also been like a huge win for Twitter. So, number one is that, again, when that happens, opens up a big opportunity for creators like us to get more followers by leveraging those new features. And then the second way is for them to increase the number of people using the platform, right? So just can you, basically, as a platform, have some new value prop, have some new features that is bringing new folks to the platform versus features that are just deepening engagement for current users of the platform. So I think they'll probably focus on both, but let's see how it goes. I mean, I feel bullish on Twitter. I think we are already hearing about a lot of features that are getting launched in the next few weeks. So yeah, let's see how it goes. And I feel like the incentives are aligned. I think Elon's invested billions of dollars that he can't afford to lose. So he needs to see the company public again in a couple of years, which basically means that he needs to basically generate more cash flow, which is usually a function of people spending more time on the platform and people spending more money on the platform.
Yeah. Thanks, Zain.
All righty, awesome. So let's move on to the remaining ways that you can monetize. Number 6, we have raising money for your ventures. Could be a startup, it could be real estate, could be a bunch of other things. An example from Gagan and Russ on the left, they raised a 4 million round by first round. They've also raised a bunch of money from Andreessen Horowitz, which is one of the biggest VCs in the world. Same with Amanda Goetz. She says 2 years and 50,000 friends on this app, and it has offered me countless opportunities. Met Jack and Twitter exec team, moved to New York City. Shout out Francis Suarez. Launched a company and raised 2 rounds, survived the pandemic with kids. Thank you all. And by the way, she didn't wait to get to 50,000 to launch all these things. Like, she had like 20 or 30,000 followers when she launched her brand. Number 7, finding job opportunities. This one right here. Interesting story behind this, but I basically said my current fractional head of marketing position is coming to an end in a few weeks and I'm up for hire. If you're interested in hiring me, shoot me a DM. Here's what I bring to the table and a few things of like, what my expertise is. So this got me almost 80 DMs from folks who wanted to hire me. Not all of them were high quality approaches, but about half of them were, folks who could, basically afford to pay a kind of 6-figure sum to hire me. And I ended up getting so much kind of inbound from this that I realized, holy cow, like, I'm running out my time and I'm consulting. Why shouldn't I just build an agency and satisfy everyone who wants to hire me? So, now I have my consultancy, but now I also have my agency where I'm working with a few different folks, work on both the paid marketing side and the social side as well. A little bit of a shameless plug, but if you're looking to kind of, grow your company presence on LinkedIn, feel free to reach out to me. On the right, Amanda Natividad, she met Rand Fishkin, who, if you haven't heard, is big in the SEO marketing space, has like 500,000 followers on Twitter, has written like a pretty famous book as well. So, she basically met Rand on Twitter, I think in the comments and DMs, and, a little while later, Rand ended up hiring her. So, that was like a dream job for her, so it's definitely use it to kind of, network and find new job opportunities. And, if you don't want to post publicly like this, you can definitely reach out to people on DMs and be like, hey, is there like an opening at your company? Here's what I bring to the table. And obviously, if you have a lot of followers, if you have valuable content in your profile, that shows the other person that you really know their stuff, especially if they're following you. You can find employees for your company. Again, example from Mayman and Gagan, come build a future online learning with cohort-based courses. In 2021, they went from a team of 3 to 25, raised 25 million from Andreessen Horowitz, 100 experts making dollars doing what they love. We're hiring in instructional design, marketing, account management, sales, and ops. Funny story, I also interviewed for the marketing lead position, but this happened around the same time that I was getting all these leads and I decided to go build my own agency. But if you wanted to find employees for your startup, that's also doable. Selling a direct-to-consumer product. So, if you have an loyal online following across something. So the founder of Glossier, I forget her name, but she basically first launched a blog called Into the Gloss. Then she went into an Instagram account and YouTube videos. And then, she basically was doing instructional content on makeup. And she eventually launched Glossier. And Glossier today is worth over $8 billion, one of the biggest makeup brands out there. Other examples, I just talked about Amanda Goetz, who launched her own cannabis brand. But, Rihanna, for example, famous, she launched Fenty, but other, all sizes of like small and big creators who are using it to launch their own direct to consumer products. Coaching, here at number 10. So Justin Welch, his tweet right here. I've now built 2 of my 5 income streams past 7 figures, his coaching business and then his digital products business. And never mind the rest of it, but essentially, he basically coaches folks on how to build their, I think, online presence. You can go check out his page for more details. Consulting. So, here I've shared a couple of examples of, consulting gigs that have come my way through DM. So Blake Burge, a good friend of mine, he basically, got a DM from him a little while back saying, would you be willing to do a paid consulting call for a friend of mine that's built an app? He has no marketing plan and needs someone just to tell him where to start. This is pretty common for folks who reach out to me, folks who, founders who built an app and they just, sorry, someone is asking a question about slide 10. So yeah, Justin Welch. So yeah, one of the biggest accounts on LinkedIn as well. So, definitely go check him out. So yeah, this is like pretty common, I post something about marketing and whenever I post something about marketing, it goes viral. I'll get a bunch of folks in my DMs. Here's the second one. I've cropped the person's name off of this because, they might not want me to share their name publicly, but essentially they sent me the thread in my DM. I wrote about, kind of writing copy for websites. And then, he said, great tips. Are you available for consulting? Would love 30 minutes of your time to review our website copy. Happy to pay your rate. So pretty common, whenever, as soon as I write about landing pages, I'll get people reaching about landing pages. When I write about, kind of growth, I'll get people who are like, we need growth. When I write about management, people are like, we're looking for a head of marketing. Can we chat? So, a lot of inbound opportunities that can come your way if you are building an audience. And funny thing is, this happened completely by chance. I've never put any content out there saying, hey, I'm up for like consulting, come hire me and someone, maybe once or twice, but never use the word consulting or that I'm up for as a consultant. People just want to reach out and they want to hire me for consulting. Sometimes it can be a small gig where they want to pay me like a few $100s just for like an hour of my time. Sometimes it's like a longer gig where they want to hire me for like a certain amount of time. And, that sum gets a little bit larger. You can build your own agency. So, I have my own agency. Jesse has has her own agency. And then, here's an example of Jeremy Moser. So he basically talked a lot about how to build good landing pages, how to do SEO and other things around marketing. Has, 90,000 followers. He has his agency right here. And, I've talked to him and he's leveraged his presence on Twitter to get a lot of really big clients. Some of like the biggest kind of tech companies out there. So, if you're building an agency, having a presence online can definitely help you. Next up is B2C SaaS. So, you are building tools for people who are users on that platform. Can do B2B as well, but, B2C is if you want to go with the solopreneur way, it can definitely work. So here's one from, JK Molina, he, in 1 year, they went from like 0 to 1 million. Same here from Tebow. So, I think they're both working on apps for creators. Definitely possible for you to kind of build some software and sell it if that's more your vibe. You have community subscriptions. Here's a great example from someone I follow, Social Savannah. So Social Savannah is, pretty big on TikTok advertising. She puts a lot of valuable content on Twitter. She also has a paid Facebook group where you pay $5 to join this Facebook group where you basically get a lot of creatives that are working on Facebook ads. So, I don't actually know how much money she's making, but, if you multiply 6,000 by $5, that's like $30,000 a month that she is making just on running this Facebook group. Again, I don't know if that's the exact amount she's making, but, I'm just doing the rough math, 6,000 multiplied by $5 to be in this group. That's a pretty sweet deal. So, she launched this group way before I think she got to the audience point that she is now. She's at 46K now, but I first found her when she had like 15 or 20K followers. So, if you have expertise, if you want to build a community and you want to charge a small amount, it can definitely turn into a snowball into something pretty big. Angel investing, won't spend too much time on this, but if you like investing in startups and you built an audience and expertise around it. So Sahil wrote a lot about kind of finance and investing. Julian wrote a lot about kind of startups and marketing. Both of them built like a huge credible audience. And now they've basically leveraged it to get leads for investing in a lot of startups. So angel investing, definitely, if you have money to spend, is another way to go. Ghostwriting. So a lot of folks, especially execs who have a lot of money and don't have time to write, will hire someone who does a ghostwriting for them. So, Dakota is one good example. I talked to Dakota recently. He's doing pretty great with his growth agency. Essentially, folks reach out to him. They want to build a following. They don't have the time for him. So he basically writes for them. There are knowledge products. So for example, you can sell a course, ebook, some kind of template, Gumroad products. Isla, for example, here, he started on Twitter a year ago. I think he's like 19 or 20 years old. And he sold $200,000 just selling Notion templates to folks out there. Pretty insane story. Justin, I just shared, he's made like over $2 million at this point selling his course and his consulting online. So he's one worth checking out both on Twitter and LinkedIn. And finally, wrapping up with this section on monetization, a few folks reached out to me and they wanted to learn about how to set up and grow their newsletter. We are short on time today, so I didn't put it into this. I feel like we've had enough information for one day. But for tomorrow's session, we have got the demo day. So the demo day, essentially, everyone can come in and they can share whatever it is that they are working on. So, you can get live feedback from everyone, from me and Jesse, but I guess other folks in the call as well, if you want to chip in, you're going to talk about your strategy, whatever else. But for the first kind of 15, 20 minutes of the session tomorrow, I will talk about how you set up your newsletter and how you get people to subscribe for your newsletter. Right on the dot, 10:31 where I am, so an hour and a half, and let's move into Q&A.
Hi, it's Joe again.
Hey, Joe.
Sorry, I feel like I'm asking all the questions today.
No, go for it.
In the first couple of days, Jessie shared how she has a schedule for the week and varies the type of content she posts on different days. And you spoke about for LinkedIn, so you're posting 5 times a week. So 2 carousels and the rest is other content. Is there any other guidance in terms of types of content? Questions? Is it polls? Is it informational? Is it whatever, engagement?
So I'll share my Notion templates with everyone via email. Just need to polish it up a little bit. So you will have a ton of different templates that you'll use. I don't want to be overly prescriptive because everyone has their own content niche. Everyone likes to talk in their own way. So I wanted to give you like the strong foundations that you need that'll work for everyone. And the rest of it, like the specific type of content you want to talk about, the niche that you want to talk about, the sort of segments that you want to have on a weekly recurring basis, I will sort of like leave that up to you to figure out what works best for you and your audience.
Thanks.
Just to kind of go off of that, I know I'm more targeted to TikTok and YouTube, but pillars of content from Monday to Friday can really be helpful. So you can even take the pillars that we discussed around the video-based content and bring it to Twitter and LinkedIn. So for example, the participatory content that you're posting on Monday, instead of posting a video to Twitter and LinkedIn, you can literally just make a thread and say, I interviewed 5 people asking them X question, and these were their answers. And then on each answer, it'll probably be its own tweet in that thread. So then you can make a little comment underneath like your thoughts on their answers. And that could be a unique way to kind of build and bring your audience together and engage them. And then subsequently on Tuesday, if you're doing a learning-based piece of content, that's where your tip, your trick, your life hack comes. And then I feel like I'll leave it up to Zain if there's any like trends or so, if we want to call it that, to follow on Twitter. But I think like having pillars for all of the platforms and then posting accordingly will just make it easier for you to continue posting consistently from Monday to Friday.
Yeah, I haven't talked too much about like content trends for the simple reason that any content trend lasts for a couple of months and then it dies out. So getting you too focused on the kind of micro stuff, I don't think is super helpful. So, keep an eye out if you're seeing a certain kind of content, a certain kind of question, a certain kind of picture, a certain kind of poll do well, you can definitely do your own version of it. But, those are more like short-term growth hacks that might get you a couple hundred extra followers, not really like a long-term strategy to grow. So, yeah.
Thanks, Joe.
All right. Anyone got any more questions? All right, I'll give it 2 more minutes. If anyone has any questions, go for it. And in the next 2 minutes, if we don't get any questions, we will wrap up this session.
Can also
I got a question, Zain.
Yeah, go for it, Josh.
So how much does your bio matter on LinkedIn? And I guess maybe talking a little bit more about it on Twitter as well for that conversion, because I know Twitter, it's really easy to immediately go to someone's profile just off of a tweet or a comment. But on LinkedIn, I feel like my engagement is, or just like from my experience, I don't know how much it matters what your LinkedIn profile really speaks about you, besides that like one line or your banner and stuff like that.
Cool. So let me quickly jump right into it, and I can take you to my LinkedIn profile. So me right here, number one, so generally when you're scrolling LinkedIn, one great thing is especially if you're on your phone, it shows like a plus follow thing here, which definitely helps improve your conversion rate compared to what's going on Twitter. So that's super helpful, number one, on LinkedIn. Number two, they also show like your first line right here. So like right here for Dakota, for example, you can see, the stuff that he writes about, and you can kind of go and check it out. And then here as well, it shows like, what the 1 line and 2 line is. And then the next thing is, I'll go to my profile because I don't think Dakota's done this. So next thing you can do is when you go to the profile is, you have a section right here. So you have your featured section, so you can add things to your featured section. So my featured section is, for example, the Creator Academy. I've plugged that in there, but then I've also plugged in a bunch of my viral carousels. So if you're looking for examples of, good carousels, you can definitely go check that out. But essentially, picture, background, clear kind of bio. You can also add hashtags on the topics that you talk about. Don't think this is a deal breaker. And then, right here, you can pin all this stuff. So Twitter only lets you pin one thing to the top. LinkedIn lets you pin like a dozen things to the top. So you can definitely use that as social proof. And yeah, I think it's on LinkedIn. There's a lot more leverage in terms of creating like a nice bio for sure compared to Twitter.
Yeah, and then one other question on top of that, I know since LinkedIn allows you to write longer form content, I noticed like there's a lot of creators like Justin Welsh talks about this a lot. He takes the Twitter content and then adapts it to LinkedIn by changing the language and maybe appealing towards a more emotional psychology, rather than just like, Twitter really limits you in how much you can, talk about, you know what I mean? Yeah,
that's a great question. I'm glad you asked that, because on Twitter, you're constrained by the first tweet. On LinkedIn, you're constrained by the see more, right? So like LinkedIn cuts, usually, not always, usually LinkedIn cuts your post off after the first 5 lines, including any spaces. So if you cannot fit your hook into the first 5 lines, then you get cut off by the see more, and people don't see what your post is, and they kind of scroll past it. So that's something to keep in mind. And on repurposing, yes, you have to adapt your hooks a little bit for both platforms, but besides the hook, the rest of it, you can pretty much, almost go word for word, I think. Yeah, and I've tried this. Like I've taken a lot of my before I figured out carousels, like I took a lot of like my content from Twitter, repurposed it for LinkedIn with shorter hooks. And yeah, it definitely worked.
I don't know if it's helpful at all, but for TikTok and YouTube, I find the most successful bio descriptions are the ones that have some sort of comedic element. So something, again, that can evoke that emotional response from your end user and make them wonder something about you or question something about you. So similarly in my Twitter and LinkedIn bio, it's more open-ended for people to really know what they're going to be learning about when they come to your profile. But I also try to add a little bit of like a unique component for them to think about, okay, who is this? And can I or can I not learn from her? And my Twitter bio is something like algorithm builder. I forget, but it's something that's unique, that kind of catches you off guard. And when you look at it, you're like, oh, okay, this is unique. Let me kind of go check their profile out. Whereas on LinkedIn, it's a little bit different, not as like exciting, but more like on that professional, using good keywords to just really let you know, okay, this is what you're learning about, hacks and tips for social media algorithms, helping direct to consumer brands, and kind of leave it there.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
Question from Joe in the comments. How much time do you spend a day on LinkedIn or preparing your content for LinkedIn? So early on, definitely a lot more time, because early on, as you're building those habits, it does take a little bit of time, when you're trying to find out what are the information sources you want to curate, that you want to consume every week, taking time out to read those, building a good note-taking system, then translating that into like a skeleton for your post, then polishing it up, writing all these things. A couple of months in, all that behavior becomes automated, but in the first couple of months, it definitely can take a lot of time. So, a couple of ways you can go about this. Either, take one day out of a week's early on, especially, and like spend 4 or 5 hours in writing all this together and then scheduling it. Or, probably early on, you will probably need to spend like an hour a day to get through this stuff, I think. But, once you're in the habit, now I have a huge amount of content in my backlog, and, I can get away with creating content only a couple of hours a week. Cool. Awesome. Any more questions? Sweet. Awesome. Okay, so I guess with that, we can wrap it up. Just a quick reminder, tomorrow I'll be going over how to create your newsletter and how to get more people to subscribe for your newsletter, a little bit about how to monetize your newsletter as well. Interesting nugget is, with the newsletter, if you have 10 to 20,000 followers, you can be making $2,500 to $5,000 a month just off doing that. So, just keep an eye out for that tomorrow. And then we also have our demo day. So if you've been working on some content, maybe if you've been working on your profile, maybe you've been working on your niche, maybe you've been working on, creating your information diet and you want some feedback on it, or you want to just discuss growth strategies. So tomorrow, we'll have like a general Q&A plus demo session. So, please show up for that. We'd love to have you there. And yeah, tomorrow's session will be a lot more informal and a lot less of us talking, hopefully a lot more of you talking. So yeah.
And I received a few of your submissions for your research sheets and some TikToks and shorts. So just a little reminder, if you guys want to get some feedback on that, try to get them into me today, end of the day, EST, and then we can also go over them tomorrow. And I'll email you with individual, really in-depth feedback as well.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, so much for showing up today. And yeah, hopefully see you not one last time tomorrow, because I'm sure we'll all keep in touch. But yeah, see you all tomorrow.